In 2018, Clara, a 25-year-old graphic designer, moved from Chicago to a small Oklahoma town called Stillwater. She wanted a fresh start, away from the noise and chaos of the city. The rent was cheap, the people were friendly, and the slower pace of life seemed like exactly what she needed. She found a cozy one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. The building was old but well-maintained, with a pleasant landlady named Mrs. Turner and a few quiet tenants who kept to themselves. For the first few weeks, everything was idyllic. Clara settled into her new job, enjoyed long walks through the neighborhood, and even started journaling to document her new, peaceful life. Then, the notes began. One evening, Clara returned from work to find a folded piece of paper tucked into her mailbox. It read, "I've seen you walking to work. You're beautiful." At first, she thought it might be a joke or some misguided attempt at flirting. Still, it unsettled her. She decided to ignore it and go about her day. But the notes didn't stop. A few days later, another one appeared. "Your hair looks nice today. I like it when you wear it down." Clara's heart raced as she read the words. Someone was watching her closely, closer than she'd realized. She started locking her doors religiously, closing her blinds at night, and avoiding her usual routes to and from work. She mentioned the notes to Mrs. Turner, who dismissed them as harmless. "Probably just some lovesick boy who doesn't know how to talk to women," she said with a chuckle. Clara didn't find it funny. One night, Clara woke to a faint tapping sound. At first, she thought it was a tree branch against the window. But as her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she realized her bedroom window didn't face any trees. The tapping continued, steady and deliberate. Terrified, Clara grabbed her phone and crept to the window. Peeking through the blinds, she saw nothing but the dimly lit parking lot. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out there. The next morning, she found a new note taped to her door. "You looked scared last night. Don't be. I'm just watching out for you." That was the breaking point. Clara went to the local police station and reported the notes. The officer she spoke to, a middle-aged man named Deputy Colson, seemed sympathetic but unconcerned. "We'll keep an eye out," he said, "but it's probably just some prank. Let us know if it escalates." The following week, Clara barely slept. She kept her lights on at night, barricaded her front door with a chair, and carried pepper spray everywhere. She told her co-workers what was happening, but they didn't know how to help. Then one evening, Clara came home to find her apartment unlocked. She was sure she'd locked it that morning, double-checked it even. Her pulse quickened as she stepped inside. Nothing seemed out of place at first. But as she moved through the apartment, she found a single red rose lying on her kitchen counter, along with a new note. "You should really lock your door. It's not safe out there." Clara felt her knees buckle. Someone had been inside her home. She called the police, who sent Deputy Colson to investigate. He searched the apartment but found no signs of forced entry. "It's probably someone with a spare key," he suggested. Mrs. Turner denied giving out any copies, but Clara wasn't convinced. Feeling trapped and helpless, she decided to stay with a coworker, Jessica, for a few nights. Jessica was sympathetic and let Clara crash on her couch. But even away from her apartment, Clara couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. On the second night at Jessica's, Clara received a text from an unknown number. "Why did you leave? I miss seeing you." Her blood ran cold. She hadn't told anyone but Jessica where she was staying. She showed the message to Jessica, who insisted they call the police again. This time, the officers seemed to take her seriously. They traced the number, but it led to a burner phone, untraceable. The breaking point came a week later. Clara decided to return to her apartment to gather her belongings and stay somewhere else indefinitely. As she packed, she noticed something strange. The vent cover in her bedroom was slightly ajar. Curious, she grabbed a flashlight and peered inside. Her stomach churned when she saw what was tucked inside. a small mounted camera aimed directly at her bed. Clara screamed and called the police. When they arrived, they found not only the camera but also a crawl space leading to an old storage area that connected to the other apartments in the building. In the crawl space, they found a makeshift living area, blankets, food wrappers, and photos of Clara taken through her window and inside her apartment. Mrs. Turner was horrified, claiming she had no idea the crawl space existed. The police later arrested one of the other tenants, a man in his late 30s who lived 2 doors down from Clara. He had a history of stalking and had been using the crawl space to access Clara's apartment and watch her undetected. Clara moved out of the building immediately and left Stillwater altogether. She never returned to Oklahoma. To this day, she triple locks her doors and windows and keeps her blinds drawn, even during the day. Though the man who terrorized her was sentenced to prison, she can't shake the feeling that someone else might be watching. And sometimes late at night, she still gets texts from unknown numbers.